Tell me what your life was like before you died.
I'm a single mom. I have 2 sons with disabilities. I'm in a PhD program in public policy and administration, having gotten my master's in public health to help my kids. And I'd also gotten certified in Reiki to help my children. So again, that was a healing thing. I didn't want to be a nurse. I just wanted to have some skills to help my boys. Growing up in an alcoholic home doesn't exempt you from things, and also increases your risk too. One of the things that I had done at that time was I felt I was drinking too much. And we're talking 20 years ago now when this happened. It'll be 20 years this fall. So I felt I was drinking too much. So I had taken myself to some, 12-step recovery meetings. But I'd stopped going because I was a busy grad student. I was also teaching at the college where I was getting my graduate work done, and it was a marriage and family relationships class, which was very interesting. And so I was having all kinds of things, but I was broke. So I had gone to this meeting and I'd heard about this man who had gotten desperately, desperately ill that everybody knew, but I did not. And his mother had been called to come in from San Francisco after going into the 4th week to come to Richmond because her son she'd gotten the call to come say goodbye. So I got a call to go to that meeting that night, and I had stopped for a friend of mine who was picking up a coin to celebrate 20 years for her. So I said I'd go, and I see people I haven't seen in a long time, and they're all standing around crying because his mother had just gotten back from the hospital to come to this meeting to thank everybody for all they had done to help her son and give him good community while he had been here, because he had just come out from the West Coast to do a contract job, but now he was dying. And we went on and had the meeting, and people are just really upset. But something about her really touched my heart. And even though I didn't know her son, I just knew as a parent how hard it is to lose a child, and at any age. At the end of the meeting, I went up to her and I was going to say, hey, I'm really sorry about this, but instead I said, I don't think you should give up hope. And to this day, it's one of those moments where, why did that come out of my mouth? Because my head immediately kicked in with, what are you saying? She's already told you she signed the funeral papers. They told her he's not going to survive, and she's here to say goodbye, or already did. But Spirit was in charge at that moment. So I asked her for permission if she would like to go pray, maybe do some Reiki with him, telling her I certainly can't promise a thing, but if you want me to do maybe go hold his hand. I've had some experiences with the other side. I'm not afraid if people are going to pass, and I would consider it, a way of extending fellowship to go show up and just be there with him if she would like that. And she said, well, he's Jewish. And I said, well, I understand. I'm not going to be disrespectful to anyone. This is not a religious thing. This is just, a spiritual matter. And she said she would give permission, and, assuming he's still even with us the next day. So I left the meeting wondering why I'd even offered this, because he was desperately ill. And again, when I say desperately ill, he had a very rare form of vasculitis, which meant that all of his systems had shut down. He was on life support. He had not regained consciousness from the paralytic coma he'd been in for going on 4 weeks. His heart was out of rhythm, and his kidneys had been destroyed from the granulomas from the vascular illness he had. So his brain injury. The likelihood of him surviving was at that point almost impossible, and if he survived it didn't look good. And later we learned any one of those things could have taken him out, but the combinations we've been told was not survivable. When I walked into the room to see him, and he had, all the tubes in his nose and throat and neck and everywhere, and he wasn't producing anything, and it was so awful. But seeing him on the ventilator and just seeing this complete stranger who looked so vulnerable, and it was just really up in my heart. And Mom had always said, when someone's in a coma, talk to them like they're awake and never assume that they can't hear you. So that's what I did. I went up and introduced myself to him at his bed because he didn't know me. And I told him my name and why I was there, and that I'd met his mother and his friends, and that a lot of people loved him. And if he had some unfinished business and wanted to stick around, I was here to try to help him if he could and wanted to. And if he didn't, I was here to help him just go if he wanted to go, and just know that he was loved and everything would be okay. So I did ask his permission to work with him. And a lot of people are saying, oh, you don't have to ask permission to do healing. Well, yeah, you do, because everybody has a spiritual journey, and people don't want healing foisted on them if they don't want it. And I stood there and waited, and I felt a puff of air, and then I thought, okay, well, he's letting me know it's okay to work with him. So I took his hand, and again, he had all the IV lines and the pulse oximeter, all this stuff. So I'm very careful to not dislodge anything. And the nurse in the ICU had put her chair right outside the door, keeping a close eye. So I said what I call affirmative prayer, which is just affirming his healing in a very positive way. So I did that. I did the Reiki treatment. He didn't respond. And I thought, well, I guess this is it. And I took his hand again to say goodbye and close up with the prayer. But I did feel, I felt a lot of love and connection with him in the spiritual way, but I didn't know him. And I just said, if you're going to go, it's okay. But I could feel his feelings. I could feel some shame and pain. And I was like, oh, it was sad. It was like, he's not in a good place. So I said, I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but I am. If you decide you want to stick around, I'll make you a promise. And I'll come back and I will continue to work with you as long as you want me to. And I said, and if you're here tomorrow, I will come back. Because I didn't know if he would be. I was kind of shocked he was still alive that day. What was unusual was I was holding his hand. He had no grip because of the coma. And I couldn't take my hand away. It was like it was fused to his for a moment. And that's when I realized the spirit was reaching back. So I came back. And I came back for 12 days. I went in to do the healing session as I had been doing, and I took his hand to say the prayer, and that's when I no longer was in my body. I was out of my body in another realm, but this time I was conscious. I wasn't asleep. I was in another realm, in that place of love and peace and safety and indescribable knowing and awareness. I describe it as like having billions of little dots of liquid love light. It's not wet, but I don't know any terms and to describe it any other way. And my hand was holding the hand of the spirit of this man, and there his body, he was hovering out of his body that was in the coma, and that's where we met. There he was. And it was like my heart totally opened, and I knew him. It was like, oh, I love this man. I've always known this man, always, forever. And he's the spirit I've always loved forever. And I have this awareness, and I knew everything about him, and he knew everything about me. And we were just embraced in this love together while he's in his near-death experience, hovering out of his body, ready to go. And I don't know what decision he's going to make, but this love was so huge that it wasn't selfish at all. If he was going to go into the light, into that tunnel, because again, he was hovering. If he was going to go, that would be joyful for me, because that's what his spirit would want. And that would be giving him such incredible peace. There's not a selfish bit in this kind of love. It's so unbelievable. But that's where we were, embraced in this heavenly love. That's the best way, this forever love, this forever time with this spirit that I know is my beloved. Next thing I know, I'm plopped back in my body. I'm standing at the side of his bed. He's still unconscious. He's still desperately ill. He's still clinging to life. God knows how, literally, God knows how. And I'm looking at him now, still bloated, still unconscious, still this. And I'm like, how have I just met this soulmate who is dying that I don't even know, who's a stranger in this life, and yet I felt this incredible bond of love with this being. I don't even know what to do with any of this. There's no way you can process the feelings, the emotions, the want to understand things. And I could not wrap my head around this at all. It was so confusing. And it was like being in two worlds at one time, experiencing that love while I'm conscious like that. And then to meet this way. And then as a human being, I was like, oh, but I don't really want him to go. My spirit might be all that lofty, but my human self is like, I've met this soulmate. I want to know him. I want to have this experience, but it's not my choice. So I continued to work with him over the next 12 days. And in that time, we had another unusual experience. And this is where I see things when I'm falling asleep. And while he was in his room, his kid, he was improving. He started to improve. And obviously, he was living, and he continued to hang on and get a little bit better. But they said his kidneys would never come back, ever. They might regain a tiny bit of function, but that's it because of the scarring. Well, one night, falling asleep, I feel like I'm in his room, and I look down and I see him in the cot in the ICU, and I see four beings that look to me to be blue. in color. They're very tall. They look like a medical team, and they're like in blue scrubs, but their skin is blue. Everything's blue, and they're at each side of the cot. And I see one that I call the lead doctor because that's what it looked like to me. And the lead doctor has like a holographic tray in front of them with like blue kidneys on it. And I see these kidneys being descended into his body. This is what I'm perceiving it as, right? And so they go into his body, and I'm like, what is going on here? Are they giving him an etheric kidney transplant? Am I dreaming? And except that the lead doctor looks up and sees and nods, and like he can see me hovering there in the corner of the room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's aware of my presence. So then I kind of fell asleep after that, wondering what in the heck happened. I woke up super early the next morning at 6:30, again, just like, I saw these beings. Was that a weird dream? Except I get to the hospital, and the stranger's name is David, and David's kidneys starting to regain and ramp up in function significantly. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but I do my Reiki work, and I had used aromatherapy music to help with the brain, keep the brain stimulated. The nephrologist who was examining his kidneys came in, and the doctors and nurses at that point, and he was in a Catholic hospital in Richmond, started calling him Miracle Boy because his kidneys began to ramp up and exponentially each day increase, so that by the end of 12 days, his kidneys had returned to 100% full functioning. No medical explanation of how that happened because it was not possible given the level of damage that was all documented. So at the end of that period, he regains consciousness. He wakes up, and we get to meet for the first time in life. And you talk about awkward because he woke up and he knew everything about me. He knew he was going to marry me. He knew he was wildly in love. This is what he says. And he knew all of this, even though he didn't even know me. He'd never met me. And until, I told him, reminded him my name, he didn't even know my name. He just knew he knew me on every level. So he didn't have the conscious memory of the meeting on the other side, but he had the after effects and the spiritual memory, which is not unusual for someone in a deep coma with heavy medication affecting recall, but he had the spiritual recall. So he didn't tell me any of that at the time, of course, but he, in the middle of a divorce, I didn't know anything about him at the time. And I just was like, I don't see how any of this, I don't understand any of this. So he got better. He flew out to the West Coast to go see his mother over Thanksgiving, or right before Thanksgiving, and his extended family out there. He came back, and then he got sick again from the medications. They treated like cancer, and he had too much of the immunosuppressant. And so he was back in the hospital again with double pneumonia and nearly dying again. So at that point, I went to go see him and did some conscious healing work with him on his lungs. And that's when he said, I'm going to can I tell you I love you? And I was like, well, yes, I love you too. I don't know what we're supposed to do with any of this. And honestly, I didn't even know who was going to live. And I was upset about that because I wanted him to live. But I had a friend who I had been talking to, and he said, you got to have a glimpse of love. If you even got it for 2 minutes, that's more than a lot of people ever get in a whole lifetime. So don't be selfish. Accept what you get. It's not up to you. It's up to God or your creator or your choice. But you got a glimpse of love, and maybe that's all you get. Maybe that's supposed to be enough, because what I glimpsed in conjunction with another being, when you have that kind of love in a shared near-death experience, it is hard to lose somebody in life. It's hard to face our own mortality. But for those of us who have, we know what is on the other side. And we're all giving that collective voice. You hear the same thing. We're saying the same things. Our experiences might differ in certain ways, but the universal truth is we're all giving a message of love, that our consciousness exists and continues to exist for eternity. And to think about it this way, we are just one being on this very small planet in one galaxy in a cosmos of trillions or more galaxies that's expanding that we cannot even comprehend. And I hope that people are hearing what I'm saying, will listen not to the words, but to the spiritual truth in their hearts, because that's what I'm trying to give. It is a message of hope, but it's a message of healing, and it's a message of love. And to have a little faith that their lives mattered, their spirits are incredibly important, and that they will live on.